It makes it easy to hear.
Because I can't hear it. Yeah.
Advised.
And then I'm like, computer, turn vacuum off. But the computer can't hear me either. These are jokes that Kat would be laughing. Hey, what was that expression? Could you see me? I was like, I did. I saw your anticipation. Yeah.
And also you were conducting the orchestra while the music was playing. I enjoyed that too.
I was, I thought, take a deep breath. Yeah. Right before we started. Hey,
hey.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of 1980s Now, a weekly examination of the importance of 1980s pop culture and its continued influence today. My name is Will, and joining me, as always, is my friend and co-host, John.
Hi there. Something's missing. You notice something is missing?
I know. It might be this thing I'm hearing about, Mandela effect, where sometimes people feel like things are a certain way, or were.
Right.
It turns out
I have the feeling there was a third host. But maybe that's just, I'm misremembering it. Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
It's a Berenstain Bear problem.
Yes. I do see that Darth says, hi, Will, Kat, and John. So I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, hey, everybody. Speaking of that, hey, hello to everybody watching us live right now on Facebook and YouTube. You can pick one. You don't have them side by side necessarily.
Although it would help if you watch it on all different platforms simultaneously.
It would help.
More views.
Yes.
You'll take it.
Right.
Open more tabs. More tabs.
Mute some of them.
Oh, yes.
Because that'll drive you nuts. But yes, please. And hello. Let's see. I could see Darth and Brandon and Marcus and anybody else. I see there's other folks out there, but they haven't said hello. So on this platform, we don't know who's there. And that's fine if you want to just lurk.
But I feel like I have to be doubly something to make up for Kat not being here. So, because I just bounce off of Kat most of the time, and now she's not here. I'll throw the ball and it'll just roll down the hill. Nobody will catch it and throw it back to me.
Just sadly, Marcus says Kat's like 85% of the reason I put up with these two's nonsense. Yeah, I get you, Marcus.
Fair.
And my guess is Kat's doing a show somewhere, Marcus. You just need to find out where that is and get a hold of her.
She's just too busy to do this show.
And I see people dropping off the live now. They don't have Kat to hang out with.
Understandable.
Hey, on today's show, we're going to have fun anyway. Speaking about current news stories related to 1980s media, like the fact that Bruce Campbell has a problem with Die Hard. The Beetlejuice popcorn bucket is out there, or it's we know about it. I don't know. It's been revealed. The Toxic Avenger reboot is unreleasable. J.J. Abrams' new secret project has 80s movie vibes. Stranger Things is coming to Broadway. We talked about this once before, but we didn't have anything. And now we got a trailer to look at. And Twisted Sister will guilt you into listening to their music. I'll tell you how that's going to work.
Sneaky.
I don't know if that would work on me. I don't think it would, but maybe it would.
I was thinking that too. Yeah, we'll get there.
Okay. Hey, quickly, I want to remind you folks, because we're just a month away now from RetroCon 2024 in Oaks, PA. I think it's Oaks. Just like it's retrocons.com. Maybe that's why they have an S at RetroCon.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm going to guess the domain wasn't available, but you can go with that.
Right.
That's fine.
So retrocons.com. I'll go there for tickets and more information. You're going to be able to see Lee Majors and Lindsay Wagner and Lance Guest and Catherine Mary Stewart and a bunch of other folks. And John and Kat and myself will be there as well, doing a panel about some pop culture item from the 1980s. There's a couple things. There was one I was definitely thinking we're going to do. And then at the last minute, I'm reading again. I'm like, this isn't good enough. There's another one maybe. And then today I was thinking of a third maybe.
Did you have to put us last after you listed all of those superstars and you're like, and then me and Kat and John also, like, start with us and then build. I don't want to follow. It's like you mentioned us in the same breath as Lindsay Wagner and Lance Guest and John and Kat. Like, whoa, that's some of these things are not like the other.
I think I was just trying to be like fair and honest.
That's nice.
But you're right. I could never be a salesperson, like, selling cars or something. I'd be too honest. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because we all know car salesmen, dirty liars.
Yeah. So pay to see those folks, and then look, for free, they throw us in.
And more importantly,
yeah,
Kat will be there, unlike this show. So it'll be so much better than what you're hearing right now.
And this sounds like, I don't know, some sort of inducement maybe to go. She gives out hugs. I mean, generally she does.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, much like we talked about a comic book store not too long ago, we're going to have a no smell policy, which doesn't mean you can't smell Kat. It means if you smell, we're going to kick you out. Get out. You certainly can't go near our cat.
No, you mean smell badly.
Yes, badly.
Right? I mean, like if you smell like lilacs, you're okay.
Get out.
Oh.
Yeah. You're right.
Axe body spray, that's on the bubble.
Yes,
we'll
right.
Depends on which scent. New car or whatever you sprayed on.
All right, hey. We're floundering.
Yeah.
Let's get caught up on 1980s news. Once we're caught up, then we can be done. And then we'll check in with Kat and see how.
That's the spirit. Is it over yet?
Yeah. The heart of the show is missing.
We'll muddle through.
I'm going to leave a lot of awkward silences too, where Kat would normally say something.
Then if someone has a Kat soundboard, they can just inject their own.
Oh shit, John! I said last
sounds.
time I was going to do that. Damn it!
You
we
need that.
Pause for an hour and have folks come back? Damn it!
Right.
Damn it! I got to do that.
You need a sound where Kat goes, I haven't seen that movie. I'll put it on my list.
You know what, John? Hang on.
Okay.
John. Remember I was just telling you that all right, hang on a second. Let me see if I have this.
Okay.
I could drop it on my board. I think I have what we need here.
Okay. Oh, that's great.
And it's perfect. This is perfect. It's going to be
Okay.
Yeah, there it is. Okay. So now while we're talking, all right, so let's do something again. Okay. We'll just do it and I'll just drop Kat in, okay?
All right.
As reported, all right, so this week on 1980s News, as reported by Entertainment Weekly.
Yes.
Bruce Campbell thinks Die Hard got the premise all wrong.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes, Kat, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, hang on, Kat. Hang on, let me tell the story. During an interview during an interview, and I wish I had her laugh. That would be great too. Oh, shoot, how long would that take me? That wouldn't take me long. I could probably do it in like 4 minutes.
It'd be easy to find a cat laugh in some previous show. Oh, music.
All right, here we go. Hey, during an interview at Entertainment Weekly's Comic Con 2024, the Evil Dead star discussed his attraction to the script for his new Peacock series, Hysteria, which I might check out just because by nature of him being in there. But in doing so, or while he was doing so, he revealed agreements that he has with a certain iconic action movie from the 1980s. So with regard to his show, he said, quote, Hysteria caught my attention because he's a man on an island. He's a rational human being trying to figure out the craziest shit in a small town. And what I like about it is small towns are not ready for that stuff. They can't handle pandemics. They can't handle satanic shit. What is this show about? It's a pandemic and satanic stuff. I mean, I'm definitely intrigued now. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what it is. They get drunk drivers. That's it.
Sounds like they're injecting some Stranger Things vibes into this small town, like all kinds of.
Yeah, maybe.
Like that's all the stuff they had to deal with.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to check out what this is now. But the thing that he's highlighting here, though, is that the protagonist is unprepared for the problems that arise, right? So his character, I'm imagining he's describing here, he like as he mentions, he's not ready for these types of things. He's not an expert in this. So he continues saying, quote, you want to put weird shit in the hands of someone who can't handle it. Like with Ash, his character from the Evil Dead films and TV series. He has no formal training whatsoever. He's not military. He's not CIA. He's like a garage mechanic that's out to save the world. That interests me. Now, he obviously in talking about this show, it reminded him of a show that I guess, or a movie rather, from the 1980s that he uses as a counterpoint, that being Die Hard, which he says has a premise that is all wrong. Quote, the guy in the air vent shouldn't be Bruce Willis. He's an ex-LA cop. The writers just took the easy train. You can put an accountant in the air vent who's never fired a gun in his life, but oh my God, he's smart. Now I'm interested. End quote.
Yeah, if only they had done that, that movie wouldn't have been so terrible.
Yeah.
It's tough to criticize that. Like, okay, maybe it would have been a different kind of interesting, but it's tough to bash that film.
Yeah, and I was trying to think, look, I felt like, okay, we've seen this before, right? Somebody sort of fish out of water things, films like this, unlikely hero stories. But I really had a hard time thinking of one that's not a comedy. I can't think of one except for maybe say like the Lord of Rings films, like The Hobbit. So you get a Hobbit and put him in this scenario that they're not. I couldn't think of an 80s film that's not a comedy. Like Inner Space comes to mind, but that's a comedy. We've got Martin Short having to do this thing. Real Men, a movie that you and I really like.
Oh, I love
John Ritter's character.
Again, stellar, but a comedy.
Yeah, and it's so I couldn't think of anything that's True Lies from the 90s. I can't think of anything that's an action
because invariably.
Film.
That guy is going to fail a lot. And that will be, if not slapstick, it will be amusing.
Yeah.
Even if it's serious stakes, it's going to be kind of, oh, look, he screwed that up. He screwed that up. Now, to his point, okay, if he's smart, that's interesting and he's able to figure these things out. But then I would argue he's not that incompetent. If he's so smart, he can just figure these things out. So what's to gain by making him an everyman? If he's going to be so smart, he's able to do everything that McClane did anyway.
And you got me thinking about
diminishing returns. About
Kevin in Home Alone. The kid's not prepared. That's a comedy, but he's not prepared. But the kid's so clever. He creates all these devices. Yeah, it thinks of it's just I don't know. You're right. Ultimately, you'd have to be competent. Otherwise, it's a completely different ending, and the bad guys win.
The movie's over. Right, you're dead right away.
Right. Yes, Holly and everybody gets killed in the Christmas party, and get away with the bear.
The end. Roll credits.
Yeah. Brandon says if Bruce Willis had been a fish out of water, it would have been a 4-hour movie to show him learning how to adapt. Yeah, I guess to be realistic in that sense. Yeah, I mean, the learning curve would be too steep. I mean, certainly accomplishing what he does in that film. Yeah. Well, look, he might not be great at screenwriting necessarily. I don't know, maybe he is. But he certainly knows his Evil Dead franchise because Campbell confirmed that there's 2 more films on the way. I guess that's the good news if you're a fan of those series. I didn't see the one with the apartment by Fede Alvarez was the director.
They're pulling away from Evil Dead is not pure horror. Evil Dead, correct Evil Dead should be horror with, as he said, there's this comedic vein that runs through it because someone is incompetent. And I didn't see the last one either, but my co-host over at Gen X Grown Up who did, they attest it's just become pure horror. And that's not what you want. He's like, I don't want 2 more Evil Dead films. If it's more of that, I want to throw back to the horror with the people that are having trouble dealing with it. And it's kind of funny, though the stakes are real. That's kind of the secret sauce for good Evil Dead, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what kept me away from the other movie too.
And though Kat's not here, she hasn't seen it. I'll just let you know.
and she's not going to put it on our watch list either.
Yes.
No.
Which she's been continually updating on our Facebook group, the Green.
Really?
Room. Yeah.
I thought that was just a hypothetical watch list. She has a genuine watch list that she's running.
Yes.
Is she knocking them out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
On Facebook, we have a Green Room, which is a much smaller group than our.
Oh, it's over there. Okay.
Where folks can post stuff, and she's been posting. I've watched all these movies so far, 24 at least. I mean, a lot of movies she made it through that she hasn't necessarily told us. When we chat. The bad news, if you're an Evil Dead fan, though, is just like the most recent adaptation or reboot of Evil Dead, you're not going to see Bruce Campbell in it. He's not returning to any live action incarnations of the character. See, I knew why you yawned there. Yeah.
Oh yeah. More
but
the same.
That said, he is returning to the character in animated form. He says, quote, I'll do Ash's voice all day long because my voice hasn't aged as much as I have, end quote. Yeah, and that was a big part of it is he says, his back hurts now and he's an older fellow. So it's not so easy to do all that stuff, which always strikes me as interesting because you could just have somebody else do it, too, the stunts and all that.
Well, at some point it stops becoming his performance, how much, I think of the, was it, I'm going to get this wrong. Was it Garth Brooks who had the AI track that he did? That was
no, it was not Lyle Lovett. Shoot.
Anyways, some country we covered on the show several weeks ago, where he's not able to sing any longer, but they kind of AI'd him, and we argued at what point, as you replace all these pieces of him, is it not even his performance anymore? And I think you'd run that risk with Ash, like if you don't have his stride and his posture and his, because it's all replaced with somebody else. Yeah. It stops being him. And that's probably what he's thinking too. If I can't do all of it, I don't want somebody else to do it, pretend it's me. That's how I would feel, I think.
Yeah, probably would think it's unfair to his audience, which he seems to respect a lot. Yeah. Mm-hmm. was really cool. You know, I think I told you guys I saw him in the live show when it came around, and we got to meet him and take a picture. Really seems like a really cool, down to earth type of guy. Although he's like 100% doing the Ash character, like all of the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Marcus says it was Randy Travis.
Randy Travis. Yeah. I was just looking that up too. Randy Travis.
And Brandon says
I also have Google.
Marcus beats to it. Brandon says the last Evil Dead was, wait for it, a dumpster fire. He's not letting you go. Off of that one, John.
You know, people are coming around to my way of thinking on
right?
Afterlife. Yeah, I'm starting to see more people as the warm glow of a new Ghostbusters movie fades, and they look back and they're like, "Huh, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was."
Yeah, I saw they just put that Frozen Empires on Netflix now too. I wonder if that's.
I meant to say Frozen Empire. Obviously, yeah, that's the one, not Afterlife. I love Afterlife.
Oh, you
Frozen
liked
Empire.
Afterlife, right.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I guess more people are seeing it now, so I could see that. Yeah, people coming around too.
And remember, we talked about with Indiana Jones the same thing. Like when we watched The Dial of Destiny, I said, I think I'm going to like this movie more after 3 to 6 months, and I'm going to watch it because I was in the midst of the hype and all of the baggage that it had and that kind of thing. And I think that's happening in reverse with Frozen Empire, with the small sampling of people that I've seen where they're like, huh, now we're seeing all the problems with it and the characters that were introduced for no reason and the wasted opportunities. And they'll come around. Eventually, I'll be right. Just not
yes.
Thank you,
Marcus says, I listened to the show, Jack Wagon. He didn't have to Google. All right. Hey, also on 1980s news, as reported by The World of Real. And speaking of comedy horror films, the Toxic Avenger reboot is, quote, unreleasable, end quote.
Is it Warner Brothers? Is that why?
No, but no. Although some folks were speculating, if that it wouldn't go the way of Warner Brothers, but that seemed like Warner Brothers, whatever. It seemed like they were, whatever. We talked about this before. They have a very, whatever. Anyway, hey, look, we've talked about many times that there are many fantastic films celebrating their 40th anniversary this year. Well, Toxic Avenger also came out in 1984. It was the first in Troma Entertainment's comedy horror series, directed by Michael Hertz and Lloyd Kaufman produced it. Those two folks together are the co-founders of Troma Entertainment. The film was a breakthrough for the independent filmmakers, spawning sequels and an animated television program. So a short-lived animated television program. Mm-hmm. And while those later incarnations were not nearly as successful or popular as the original film, it still remains, has a cult following strong enough to warrant a reboot, apparently because in 2010 they announced that's exactly what they're going to do.
But
we had a decade of different creatives being attached to it. They went to different directors. At one point, Arnold Schwarzenegger was supposed to play the hero in the film, and reportedly he dropped out to do Genesis instead. And even though I'm not a fan of Genesis, I still think he made the right move in that regard, at least.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Macon Blair wrote and directed the film, which stars Peter Dinklage as the titular hero, and it's got a bunch of other mainstream actors in there as well, including Kevin Bacon of all people and Elijah Wood. If you're not familiar with it, it's about a janitor who falls into toxic waste and gets mutated and superpowers.
So I have picked up on all your not so subtle jabs at the Toxic Avenger so far in this story. I will not defend that it is a good movie. Do you have a bone to pick with it? Have you just seen it and hate it, or
no? No, I don't know. I think it's probably an easy target. I know it's got a lot of fans. I saw it when it was available. I've told this story before. They filmed it in my neighborhood, so I watched some of the scenes be shot. So when it came out, we were all excited about it. And I'll probably I'm punching down. It's bad. I shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's a weird movie in that you want to say it's so bad it's good, but it's almost not bad enough to be so bad it's good. It has like moments of like, I see a filmmaker in there. I see somebody doing craft. I see some art happening and failing, but like I see where they were going. I see what they were shooting for. They didn't have the budget or the equipment or the talent to do what they wanted to do. And like when I've watched that, and I've watched it in decades probably, but I watched a lot when I was younger, I had it on VHS and I would watch it. And it's like you're watching, like you're rooting for your friends up the street who are trying to make a movie, because you can see moments of like, oh, they almost did something cool there, but it looked stupid. But I know what they were going for. So I kind of root for it. Even I wouldn't call myself a fan, but I don't crap on it either because I'm like, oh, there has a warm spot in my heart for kind of how it makes me feel about filmmaking, knowing how they fell short and were so close to maybe doing something great. And it ended up being popular because maybe that's why other people like it so much. I don't know. I never asked anybody why they're such a fan.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of I want to say meta reason for liking it maybe, but I get it. I get it. And yeah,
right. It's not liking the film itself, right? It's liking something around the film. Sure.
Yeah. And I agree with you to the extent certainly that Troma deserves a lot of credit for what they've done. You know, they got a very niche sort of piece of you got comedy, you got horror, you got comedy horror, and then you got Troma. But they've established quite a brand for themselves. Certainly so successful that they could warrant the attention of folks that are much bigger than them at this point.
Yeah, and didn't they, as a company, really they laid a lot of the foundation for direct to VHS releases when that wasn't quite a thing yet. Their distribution model was something that, look, they didn't release the movies at all. And there's no theater releases for their movies. And so they were really riding that leading edge of video stores. And I think it's how a lot of people saw their stuff, and it made a lot of other small filmmakers think, if I can just get it in the pipeline for video stores, I don't have to go through a studio. I can actually get my stuff out. This is all stuff I'm remembering from a Troma documentary I saw some years ago, but it impressed me. The back end again, it's the meta reason for liking the film and the company is what they did in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know that you're wrong. I don't remember that in particular, but I can only say that I've seen their films because I rented them. So that's certainly consistent with my experience. Well, with regard to this reboot, it was first screened. Look, it's done. It's in the can. It was screened at some film festivals in October of last year, including Fantastic Fest and Beyond Fest, or September of last year. And then in October, we got a teaser trailer. So, it was released to everybody could see it on YouTube, et cetera. We watched it. What I recall is it's like hyper violent, even in the, 30 seconds or a minute that it is where you knew, okay, certainly they were gory in the past, but they were 1980s gory and on a small budget. So the stuff that they presented was, like, to your point, it was clearly an independent film studio, which is fine. But they got some money because this thing, I remember even again in that short piece, I was like, this is going to be horrible and horrifying rather, just, sort of upsetting. And maybe that's why since then we've never heard anything about it ever coming out. It was teased. It was going to come out. The rumors were it was going to come out for Halloween last year. Then it was in the spring of this year. Came and went. Now, and that's only just folks, talking in chat rooms and stuff like that. There's never been any official announcements. Like I mentioned, I began reaching out to them in the fall last year because I thought, all right, any moment it's going to drop. And their response was, we're just not ready yet to set up interviews because, it's not coming out yet. So, which now I understand they didn't even know when it was coming out, I guess. Well, according to Jordan Rumi at World of Real, he reached out to a producer who told him that the film is, quote, unreleasable, and that its commercial prospects are, quote, too out there, end quote, for theatrical release. That producer, however, believes that if it doesn't get picked up, it'll probably, like you said, John, and maybe going back to their roots, go straight to VOD or streaming.
Yeah.
And another filmmaker and producer, Adam Masnick, went on Twitter and confirmed that the film has been deemed, quote, not safe enough to market, end quote, which is why he thinks that nobody has stepped up to distribute it.
Do you think they are underestimating the tastes of an audience? We hear a lot of criticism about mainstream film releases that everything's an IP. Well, this is an IP. It's not maybe a great argument, but everything is a sequel to this. Everything is a remake of that. Everything is copying what was good last summer, what we think we can get out. And to look at this and go, oh, it's too risky. I think that's the marketing campaign. The film that was too risky to release, now in theaters. I mean, I want to see it more now on streaming because I want to see what about it did you think people wouldn't go see in the theaters? I mean, that's its own marketing almost. They ought to, maybe this is the shadow marketing and they're going to start releasing it. I don't know, but I doubt. I don't give them that much credit. Probably not.
Yeah, I think Brandon in the comments hits on what I was going to say. He writes, the niche for Toxic Avenger, I don't believe is broad enough to warrant a reboot. That's what I would guess. So yeah, I think obviously when we're talking about risk, I think it's less about folks having a taste for hyperviolence, which not everybody does, but that the size of the market relative to the cost to market it to them is probably unbalanced in a way that would keep you in the red.
I see that. To his point, it's like it is an IP, but it's not an IP big enough to carry a film. It's more like it's an IP that too many people haven't heard of. So I'm sure that's part of the risk too, as you said.
Yeah. 40 years later, I don't know when the last Toxic Anything we got. I think the cartoon was in the 90s, I want to say, but I'm not.
Was it 90s? Okay.
I'm not positive. But yeah. And if you think about films like we've talked about, The Fall Guy, didn't go to the theater. The Fall Guy. What's the other one? Roadhouse didn't go to the theater.
Roadhouse. Yeah.
Sheesh. If it's, if it makes no sense for that, go to the theater. Some bean counter, I could see them dismissing this.
Yeah.
What started as an indie film. I don't know. But yeah, it seems like there's no, there used to be a thing. I don't know that it exists anymore, where some films would come out in a small limited release and they'd see, okay, it's not in 1,200 theaters. It's in 100 theaters, 500. And then, all right, we got word of mouth. Now we got some money, or mitigates the risk.
And a sampling of regions too. Don't just dump it all in LA, right? Do some in the Midwest, do some in the Southeast, do something, in Central America, Central North America, something to see like, is there a region for this film? But, I guess probably the film industry is struggling enough that they're even more risk averse likely than they would have been even 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but I get it.
Anyway, we'll see. Another 1980s news, as reported by Screen Crush, Stranger Things is coming to Broadway. So as we mentioned, we knew this was in development, but we haven't talked about it, I think, since it opened on the West End in London, London's equivalent of Broadway. And now we've got a teaser trailer and a date when it will make its Broadway debut. It's called Stranger Things: The First Shadow, and it's a prequel to the hit Netflix TV series, which, if you don't know, it follows a group of teenagers in the 1980s as they're investigating a number of supernatural happenings, and comedy ensues, it's
comedy ensues.
I mean, it's a mix. Speaking of comedy horrors, it's definitely has light moments. It's definitely, I wouldn't say there's fan service, but it definitely plays on our feelings as a base here that for that decade. And much like Bruce Campbell was suggesting about the sort of the tropes that make for better stories, it's a group of kids who are definitely not prepared for this, the monsters that they face.
Certainly. So I watched the trailer. Yeah. I'm sure you did.
I did, yeah.
I want to know what you think of it before I tell you what I think.
Yeah, okay. Well, I got to tell you, when we first knew this was coming, and I knew very little about it except for that it's a prequel to the big bad that we learned about in the last season. So it's his origin story. That's what this play is. And I thought, what are they going to do? It's Stranger Things. It's sci-fi. I mean, what is this going to be, like Hamlet? It's going to be boring. Now, I say all that, but last week I was in New York and I saw Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which is another show I dismissed, even though I'm a fan of Harry Potter. And holy shit, if the play isn't well written and the characters engaging, the actors fantastic, they also make magic real in this production. It is unbelievable. I mean, they had to have, and I believe it's true, illusionists create the gags because so many unexpected things come to life, and, characters transforming into other characters and people disappearing. And anyway, knowing that and seeing the trailer now, and with the context of that, I'm like, okay, maybe it's going to be similar. We get a great story, but also able to include those sci-fi elements that we love that got us to this theater in the first place. So I am excited. The only I guess con I have is some of the clips on that trailer seemed so visually like it could be a show that I thought, well, why am I going to see this on stage then?
I know what you mean.
That was the only downside I could say.
Yeah.
What did you think? I
saw a lot that looked really similar to, like, almost exactly the scenes I've seen in the series.
Yeah.
To your point, it's like, it's a prequel, but I guess we have to see these things again in the past. We have to see a Demogorgon, we have to see whatever. But I don't want this to sound negative, but I've cooled on Stranger Things, not because I'm not a fan of it, but because it has been so stretched out.
Right.
And it's not about kids anymore. It's these young adults who are playing kids. It's the old 80s trope. They're all in their late 20s playing 15-year-olds, you know?
You remind me. We watched my wife's a huge fan of Grease and Grease 2. I love Grease when I was young. So we showed, my wife has been waiting to show this to my daughter. And so we watched it just a few days ago. She's 13. And, we see all the characters come out. And she's, doesn't say anything much about anybody until she sees Stockard Channing. And she says, this woman's in high school. She's got to be 40.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like to your point, in the 70s and 80s, you had 20 and 30-year-olds playing teenagers. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we did. So to that point, though, that is what has kind of made me cool on Stranger Things. I'm excited to see the 5th season because I want to see the story wrap up. I mean, it's a franchise. It'll continue in the future, but with different actors and do something different in the future. But this... it gave me some of those first season feels when I watched the trailer. Yeah. And plus, it's theater, which is a huge plus. You got to really screw it up to make theater bad for me. I've heard stuff about Back to the Future, of course, which kind of did more than they needed probably to put cars speeding around. Like you don't have to have all that, but you kind of wanted it. I want to see it. I'm just saying. And this is... Stranger Things is almost that thing. It's atmospheric. There's some monsters or some stuff, but it's not... I can imagine it being the right kind of gags and effects for theater that are made for theater.
Right.
Because it's kind of like that old filmmaking. It wasn't so over the top. There were giant set pieces, of course, you know what I mean? But I just feel like it fits so well in theater. And then seeing the trailer, and I'm not going to see those actors because several of them look, that's pretty spot on. But I'm super excited about it. I don't know when I'll get a chance to see it, but I think it looks fantastic.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I thought you were about to shit on it, and you did.
No. Yeah, I was prepared to. Was the thing, right? I was like, Stranger Things. Now what? They really jumped the shark here, but I don't think they did have.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil Cursed Child, but because it's the closest thing I have for reference, and it's so new for me because I just saw it a week ago. There were moments where I felt stunned, shocked, scared. And so I could only, and part of it, like we talked about with live theater, is because you're there, it's not real, but I'm not watching these monsters on a screen. The monster's right there.
It looks real, right?
Yeah.
It's like my brain has not yet figured out like, I know this isn't fake on TV.
Yeah.
It's fake in reality, but I can't see the fakeness. So now like your monkey brain kicks in and go, should I run? Should I run?
Yes. I know. Yeah. I love that phenomenon. I hate every now and then when I see a live show or I'm seeing a movie, it's interesting because I think I've heard it described as similar to a hypnotic state, the same state of mind you go into. But like someone can ask you for, hey, can I have some Raisinets? Yeah, here you go. Or what did they say? Oh, he said that, Rosebud is the name of the sled, whatever. And you stay in it.
Spoiler.
But every now and then I'll have a thing where it's like takes me out, like my phone goes off or something. I'm like, oh no. And then I realize, oh crap, I've been in this world. I've been living in the world of this movie or theater show. Oh my God, I'm still here. It's weird. I'm in New York right now. I love how that works. Like you said, your monkey brain. I love that.
The primitive, I just know I'm seeing something scary and something primal in me is like, you maybe want to run. You should be a little worried because this is.
So look, here's the good news. And again, it's a prequel about Henry Creel, who's the guy who ultimately becomes the big bad in the 4th season of Stranger Things. But it's been in London, like I mentioned, and it's been successful. So much successful that the producers, and Netflix is one of the producers, are planning to make a trilogy out of this. A trilogy of stage shows. So.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I can't imagine what other stories left to tell, but I didn't know they had this, so let's see. The show hasn't gotten uniformly positive reviews, but it's got a lot. I'll give you this was a funny one, I thought. And the New York Times described again, I'm talking about the West End production because it's not on Broadway yet. They described it as, quote, a gaudy, I looked up how to say this word, I got to remember it. A gaudy, vertiginous fairground ride of a play, exactly what you'd expect from a show produced by Netflix. Cheap thrills, expensively made.
That doesn't discourage me. Everything in there is like, I want to see what you saw that made you write that.
Right.
Now,
yes. Yeah. Look, a thrill's a thrill. I mean, I don't know. Right. Expensively made thrills. That sounds even better. Right. Yeah.
Sounds like I like it.
And vertiginous, by the way, it means like is the same root as vertigo. So it means like, vertigo.
No, dizzying.
Yeah, dizzy.
Yeah, it causes you to be disoriented. All right.
If you want to see it, you can see it here in the good old United States. Of course, if you're overseas in London, you can see it right there. But it'll be here on Broadway on March 28th, 2025. So there's a website already established where you can get more information and get notifications about the tickets. I'll tell you, when I was in New York just recently, there's so many shows now. I mean, and I was talking to a friend of mine who, is a producer of Broadway shows. And she said what happened is the pandemic jammed a bunch of things up. And
I was about to say is a logjam of production, which is that's an embarrassment of riches now that everybody had stuff in development and it paused. Mm-hmm. And then during the pandemic, they created more things they couldn't do. So, good for us.
She was telling me Tony's season, maybe there's 8 or 9 shows that are vying for, she said there's I don't know, 14, 15 shows that came out all the same weekend or something. I don't know. But a lot of them seem really good and interesting. So, yeah. Brandon says 2025, it'll come out about the same time as the final season. Ooh, yeah, it's probably not accidental, is it? Paging all retro hounds. If you're searching for your next nostalgia fix, look no further than Retro Days on YouTube, home of the flagship series Celebrating Yesteryear, hosted every Saturday by our very own John Reddick. Presents a topic from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, imbued with John's Reddickness and a healthy dose of humor, dripping with nostalgia. the show's dripping with nostalgia, not John, or maybe both.
His air conditioning's fine now.
The AC was
dripping.
out.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Hey, come for topics like VCR board games and stay for experiences like the best 1980s sleepover ever. Head over to youtube.com/retrodays to catch up on past episodes, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the new episodes posted every Saturday. At Retro Days, they don't just remember the past, they celebrate it. Hey, as reported by in other 1980s news, as reported by Cinema Blend, Beetlejuice 2's popcorn bucket has a connection to that sexy Dune bucket.
Does it, though?
I'm going to tell you right now. It's a tenuous connection. It's just going to allow us a jumping off point to talk about popcorn buckets.
Yes. Which is always fun.
Yeah. So when it comes to 2024 movies, there seems to be somewhat of a popcorn bucket popularity contest going on right now. And it was kicked off by, it seems, the Dune 2 container that went seriously viral. You'll recall, and we talked about it most recently, Deadpool and Wolverine. We were making a joke that turned out to be real, where they parodied the sandworm Dune bucket, popcorn bucket, with their own looter container, because it was intended to be loot. Anyway, now Beetlejuice, the sequel to the 1980s film, has a popcorn bucket that's coming out, and while they are safe for work, they do share a connection, tenuous, with the Denis Villeneuve film. Regal Cinemas took to social media to share share the 3 special popcorn containers that will be available at their movie theater chain, and I've got them for you here. I'll show you pictures. See this for everybody. And here you go. Here's the connection we're talking about. Just like with Dune, it's a sandworm. Okay, big deal, right?
Yeah. That was all SEO titling for this article from Cinema Blend. Yeah. If you can talk about the Dune popcorn bucket, you're going to get some views. And it is a sandworm, technically, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
mean, I'm not going to try to make a joke. We've played this to death already. And they actually have a couple of others coming out for Regal, including the handbook for the recently deceased. And this one you turn over on its side. For folks just listening, we're showing the video. You should check us out live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you turn it on its side, the book opens like a book opens, and the popcorn goes inside there.
Not much. It looks like a book.
I know. Like you said, people aren't really putting popcorn in it.
It looks more like a TV tray you'd open up, and it's just a thin layer of popcorn, 1 kernel thick.
Yeah, it's like a bento box. Right.
Yeah. I like the box. It's cute, but still.
And finally, they've got a tombstone also as a collectible popcorn bucket. Here, it's Beetlejuice's tombstone. You've seen it in miniature form in the films. This one, they just really crowbarred, a popcorn container into it by adding this pull out.
They're just toys
pouch
onto which they have found a place to insert popcorn is really. And I'm not hating that, but it's kind of.
It's funny because there's so many different popcorn buckets now at movie theaters. And as you pointed out, and I just learned because, like I said, Regal did this. You go to Cinemark, where you have that in your country, it's a completely different thing. Because I learned about this because there's an interesting article in Vulture that talks about how we got to this place of these popcorn buckets. And there's companies that just make these popcorn buckets in sippers, which is, a popcorn bucket before a drink bucket. They work deals directly with, their customers will be a theater chain and the studio. Obviously, the studio's got to always be involved. And then the studio and a different movie chain, And so they get quite a variety of these toys, as you say.
Yeah. The Ghostbusters one was particularly egregious. You talk about, finding a way to put popcorn and just forcing it. The Ghost Trap, there was nowhere to put popcorn in the Ghost Trap. The bucket, the bucket was basically like the emanating light that comes out of it that you click on the top of the Ghost Trap and put popcorn in that.
Oh, right. You showed us that. Right.
Yeah. There was like a translucent yellow thing and there's a light inside to light it up. It was like, you put the popcorn in the plasma that comes shooting out of it. That's the bucket. Yeah.
Yes.
Feels like it would fall right through there.
They're collectibles.
Just stop calling them popcorn buckets. Call them exclusive collectibles.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't have to be popcorn buckets.
Although it does seem like you wouldn't imagine they'd be as popular if they didn't have that sort of clever angle of, because you're showing it to your friends. Let's look. I could show you. I have a toy, Ghost Trap from Mattel or whatever.
But this popcorn bucket.
Check this out, though. This holds popcorn. Don't put any popcorn in it.
But you could if you wanted.
Yes.
Yeah. I see your point.
Yes.
Oh, cat craze too. Yeah. So regarding the not safe for work Dune bucket, the creators of the container that I mentioned told Vulture, which is where I got this information from that I was mentioning about. It's kind of an industry you never considered exist. That it was a challenge for them to find an iconic image from the Dune film that they could then turn into something that would have people emptying their pockets. And they didn't anticipate how it would be perceived. Talking about the Dune bucket.
Really? Nobody did?
Yeah, they had no idea. In fact, before the controversy erupted, the thing was designed. He said it was in the can. It was, it was mass produced already 6-8 months before, anyone knew what it looked like in the uproar. Vulture spoke with Rod Mason, who's the vice president of business development at Zinc Group, and Marcus Gonzalez, who's the company's global creative director. It's these two folks who are in charge of designing these things and getting them made. But they did not foresee thinking that that people would think fleshlight when the images of the specialty popcorn bucket hit the social media.
At least one of them should be fired. No one raised a red flag and said, okay, this is going to hit the general public. Have you seen the internet? Yeah. Someone's going to do this.
No.
Yeah.
No, they don't give the ages of these two folks. I imagine they're middle-aged guys because they didn't even know about the filter. They didn't know the controversy even was happening on social media until let's see, it was Mason. His adult son told him. In the article, Mason's quoted as saying, "My son, who's 26, called me and said, 'Dad, did you do the Dune bucket?' Because he knows his dad's in this popcorn bucket industry. And I said, 'Yeah, why? It's not out in public yet.' And he said, 'Oh, yes, it is.'" Yeah, they had no clue.
Weird.
Yeah, it gets to the credit of their customers again, which was Legendary Pictures and AMC with regard to Dune. Zink says that they both embraced it, and why not? It was you could not anticipate the firestorm in a very great way that it created, because these things sold out of theaters, and then they had them
huge
at
demand.
Comic-Con, wiped out.
Aftermarket on eBay and Mercari. Yeah. You should triple the price, quadruple the price. Yeah.
Yeah. In the article, they mentioned that one recently sold at auction on eBay for $800.
$800. I think it was only like $40, right?
Yeah. It seems like the average price was like $300 on.
You could buy a really nice fleshlight for that much money. I suppose. Yes. I imagine. I assume.
Hey, John, you could just rent a person.
Whoa. I thought you were going to tell me I could rent a fleshlight, and I was going to question.
Yes. That's a business I've been working on, John. Now, I know what you're thinking, but there's a whole process that the things go through, and
it's not enough.
Mm-hmm. It's basically built on trust. The system,
whatever the process is, it's not enough.
Unless fire is involved and a new fleshlight. All right, whatever. What are we talking about? But
and now we're back to the trust issue.
Yes, and beyond this, the controversy of this thing, and again, just the wild sales of it, it had an impact on this industry, which highlighted a huge hole in the market for this type of collectible. I mean, it's amazing to me now in hindsight that companies weren't doing more of this already.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, McDonald's has had Happy Meals for what, 80 years? I don't know how long, whatever.
Yeah.
It's the same idea, but for adults.
Different demographic, entirely different demographic, right? Movie fans who like going to the theater, hyped around. Look, the marketing is done for you. They're not advertising these buckets. I mean, maybe in the lobby, but I mean, it's not like they're doing a campaign. They could just ride on the popularity. Deadpool, Wolverine, everybody's dying to see it. And now the natural thing is, I wonder what the cool popcorn bucket's going to be. Yeah. It's just like expected. You don't have to work hard to market it even. They ride off they piggyback on the marketing of the movie and just be in the lobby and they're going to sell. It's amazing. Yeah. It's crazy it took this long to figure that out.
Yeah. And most recently when I was at the movies, talking about having them in the lobby, they had shelves dedicated to these things. It looks not unlike it's something you'd see at a toy store. It was like all the variety of Deadpool stuff they had, and Despicable Me 4 was there, Garfield, something like that.
We need to do a thought exercise. Yeah. We need to go back in time, pick a year, pick the top movies. And predict if these popcorn buckets had been a thing then, what would they have been? Huh. Like what's the Top Gun popcorn bucket? Okay. What's the Splash popcorn bucket? You know what I mean? Like what's the Inner Space popcorn bucket? What do those look like? The battery's not included. Could have been the little robots, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about that because they missed decades of doing this. Yeah. What could they have done?
John, they could do that now. Like if they just had it in the line of it, among the different offerings.
If they were still selling Blu-rays and DVDs, right? Like you could shrink wrap the DVD to the popcorn bucket and sell it in the aisle at Walmart and Target.
Yes,
people would buy that.
John, how do we get a cut of this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Put me in the writer's room.
Put him in the Zinc Productions office or whatever.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, and that article in Vulture, these guys talk about, you not only have to consider what will someone see and know, that's from that movie, but whether it can hold popcorn. Because they were talking about how they had
Terminator, a T-800 head.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Cocked off the middle, right? Full of popcorn. Oh my God, I'm dying for these things that didn't exist now.
Yeah. All right. Hey, we'll get to get.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Cat's in the comments, as we predicted.
Now, we knew she would be.
Yeah. Yes.
She's at the computer.
Right. Cat, you're in the comments, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, I do it. Thanks for agreeing. Cat, we knew you were going to be in the comments. And so earlier, before we started recording, I said, why doesn't she just come on the show then? But whatever. Okay.
She's clearly got a signal. Yeah. She clearly has a device.
Technology.
It certainly has a camera and a microphone. Yeah. Right. And yet, here we are.
Brandon says...
Floundering. Catless.
Brandon's the third person on the show today, by the way. Brandon says it was obvious that the Dune bucket was ribbed for someone's pleasure.
Not obvious to the designers, unfortunately.
Cat, who's also on the show right now, says the Splash popcorn bucket would be a mermaid tail.
And where would the hole be?
Yeah, Cat, you're setting yourself up. And also, if it's just the tail, that almost looks like, I don't know, like when you're...
It's like it's been chopped off.
When you're scaling a fish? Yeah, right? I'm not going to eat this part.
There we go.
And if it's more than the tail, I mean, is there an ass on the tail? I mean, yeah, there's a whole other... It can't just be the... I don't know. Yeah. All right. Hey, another 1980s news as reported by Ultimate Classic Rock. Here's Twisted Sister's trick to make fans stay for new songs. So although Twisted Sister started in the 1970s, it wasn't until their third album, Stay Hungry, which was released 40 years ago in 1984, that the band reached international stardom. Look, if you don't know that album, you know the songs because it gave us the rock anthem, We're Not Gonna Take It. But other hit tracks as well, like You're Gonna Burn in Hell, which was also in Pee-wee's Big Adventure briefly. And I want to rock down, don't get around. Well, look, just like with other bands, and we've talked about this before, there's an expectation that when you go to a concert to see somebody perform, they're gonna play those hits, and that as a concert goer is irrespective of, I think that's a word, of what the band's creative, aspirations are. I remember when Billy Joel was like, I'm not doing rock and roll anymore. I'm going to play create classical music. Well, I don't know, instrumental music. I guess it's not classical technically.
Good luck to you.
I'm not interested. Definitely don't do it in concert. Well, as a result, there's two types of songs you may hear at a concert because balancing these interests. There's, this is according to J.J. French of a Twisted Sister. You're going to hear the classics and the piss songs, so-called because during the performance of those unfamiliar tunes, it's when people start to get up and mill about and get another beer or use the restroom. Mm-hmm. Well, in a recent episode of Let There Be Talk, French explained how his band's frontman...
I want to talk.
That would be a good name for a Twisted Sister podcast.
Yeah. That's a fantastic name.
Yeah.
Let's do it. I don't know anything about Twisted Sister. Let's do it.
And then let's also do a popcorn bucket for it. Dee Snider's head. Oh.
Dee Snider's head, of course.
With the makeup on.
All the paint.
French explained how Snyder faces this challenge. He says, quote, the truth is when you come up with a new song, most people just get up and go to the bathroom. We recorded a new song many years ago called 30. We started playing it live. And Dee started saying, okay, folks, tonight we're going to be doing a new song. I'll give you plenty of warning. It's the song you're going to go out and get a drink or take a piss. We're 3 songs away from the piss song, 2 songs away from the piss song, and so on. And he would embarrass the people so much that they wouldn't leave because now they don't want to look like schmucks by getting up and leaving. End quote. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm trying to think.
Yeah, you said at the beginning of the show, you don't think it'd work on you.
If I got to go, I got to go. And I don't want to go during I Want to Rock. I want to go during 30. I don't know what that is.
Because what have you missed?
And within the first few chords, you're like, nope, I don't know that one. Right? It doesn't take long.
It might be a fine song, but that's not the song that got you to the arena that night.
Yeah.
I never understood. I mean, I understand the artistic bent, why people go, artists will go, well, I don't want to do all of those old songs anymore.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, it's like film. It's like that Lucas thing. Who owns the film? Yes, you created it. But once it's out in the world, people have a type of ownership over it. And they want to see you do it. They're willing to pay you to do it. And if you're like, I'm an artist, I don't want to do it. Well, we don't want to pay you then. Yeah. You can release new music and we'll listen to it on Spotify and maybe we'll like it. Maybe in 20 years we'll go see you in concert doing it. But you released that music. It became popular. That's how you got your career. So you pay your dues in the beginning to get a career. And then when you have a huge career, you got to pay your dues by repeating those successes because people want you to, they want to see you do it live.
Yeah.
That's why they're there. Fine. Mix in you're taking a break piss songs if you want, but people shouldn't be upset about it. And like guilting people into it, they paid for their ticket. If they want to fall asleep during the concert, they should be able to. Don't guilt them. Yeah.
And because a concert venue is so large, provided I'm not sitting in the front row, I'm getting out of there. I'm going to use the bathroom. I've been at comedy shows where you wind up sitting, sometimes you go and it's like, it's the kind that have tables where, a lot of them are like this because they can serve you food and drinks. That's also how the shows make their money. So they seat you. You may pay for an area and then they seat you wherever's available. I've been, I have an area and then they sit me right in the front. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to sit here. Because inevitably you're a target of the comedian. And if you get up and walk or hey,
where you going, dummy?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it's not that you can get away with it.
Just occurred to me, if you really have to go, secondary use for the Dee Snider popcorn bucket.
Yes, John. There you go. You're right.
I hope it's waterproof.
It's not flowing out of his eyes or something.
Yes. I want to piss.
You're talking about doing the classics. There's some artists who they do them, but then they do them how they want to do them. Not in the original version, not in the original style. And French goes on to cite the example of Bob Dylan as someone who won't play the classics in their original published form. He says, quote, Dylan is indecipherably bad. You don't even understand it. But if you're a deep Dylan guy and you think Dylan's so esoteric, you go, he's an interpretive artist. He does it the way he wants to. The average person doesn't give a shit. They want to hear Blowing in the Wind like Blowing in the Wind. They like to hear the song that sounds like the kind of record because that's what they remember.
I can see that.
And I feel the same way about acoustic versions. MTV had these popular, what was it called? Unplugged. Like, this is fine. It's interesting. It's novel. I want to hear the original version. That's what I like.
Yeah. Those are good in small doses, right? I don't want that at the exclusion of the one I know. Yeah. It's nice to hear that and go, oh, look how talented these people are. Look at the range. Look, there's no vocoder going on. There's no auto-tune going on. Look, there's no
nothing electronic. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing crazy is happening. And you're like, oh, wow, I can appreciate the talent here. But then I want to hear the real song right after that.
Right.
You know, it's kind of, not instead of.
Yeah, and you're a captive audience. So you got to hear it however they want to do it. And you get your one shot to see them live, and now they do it a shitty way. Yeah, I don't want to see that. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, another 1980s news. This is our final story. Yeah, it is. Look at that.
Oh.
It's flown by. It's flown by. Oh, Kat said she had to go. She also said she was in a location unsuitable for recording.
Likely story.
Yes.
Hey, our final story here, per the World of Real. Another story from World of Real. Look at that. They're moving ahead. Coming on strong. J.J. Abrams' secret project has 80s movies vibes, and it's a specific movie that folks are invoking, which got my, eyebrows raised. More details. Now, apparently, look, they say more details have emerged about this project, but quite honestly, I didn't know this was a project. So these are the only details that I've ever heard.
Right.
But he's got this new mysterious movie that people have been talking about. And most recently, you learned that Glenn Powell, who seems to be getting a lot of roles since he was in Top Gun Maverick, and Jenna Ortega, again, another person that is, getting notice. And I think she's fantastic. So I'm glad to hear that. The project marks a directorial return for Abrams, who I didn't realize hasn't helmed anything since Rise of Skywalker. It's like almost shamed out of movie making.
He got paid.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Though we got no plot details, we don't have a production start date, we don't have a release date, nothing. A production weekly listing reportedly indicates that the film is going by the working title of Acorns. That's about all we know, except for, according to a website called the In Snyder, which is by some guy named something Snyder. He says he's told that it's a fantasy film with, quote, Last Starfighter vibes.
That's the thing that makes me think it's not the Last Starfighter.
Because it's vibes?
No. Because if In Snyder is indeed any kind of insider, you're not going to... Look, if he's working on the next Ghostbusters movie, you're going to go, making a franchise comedy in the vein of Ghostbusters. You're not going to compare it to the thing it actually is. Yeah. It's too on the nose. So unless he's just enough on the outside that he doesn't know any better. But I would love for it to be.
Yeah, me too. And I think J.J. Abrams could be a good choice for that, as long as he didn't try to subvert it somehow with his mystery box formula. Like, I really loved that Super 8 movie because it was set in the 80s. It was so Spielberg-y.
I was about to say the exact same thing. Yeah.
Which I loved. And then I didn't like how it ended, though. It turns out the alien was killing people and eating them or some shit like that. I don't remember. But suddenly, they always should be scared of the alien. It felt like it was E.T. until like the third act. And I was like, whoa, it's Jaws.
Yes, very Spielbergian. There you go.
Yeah, so as long as he doesn't do kind of crazy shit like that we come to know from Abrams in that regard. Makes a great Mission Impossible movie. I really like the Star Trek reboots. A lot of lens flare, but still good. Solid.
Maybe too much. Yeah.
This source also told Insider that he added that it doesn't take place in space and that it's decidedly a throwback of sorts. Apparently, though, they noted that the script has drawn mixed reception from industry insiders who have read it. That's fine. Obviously, if it was brilliant, there'd be a bidding war. We probably would have heard of it sooner than this.
Right.
But yeah, most recently, as you know, I spoke to Jonathan Betchell, the screenwriter, he's just at the front. It's so funny. Like I see him, like he's not ready. He's not going to get that sound off. It's like the whole show, your finger's just over them.
I'm ready.
It's kind of like me with Kat. Right. Yeah.
Yes.
With cat making sounds. Yes. Yeah. There was no indication that this thing was even close to have it landing somewhere. So it makes sense. Which is fine. According to the, let's see, we've got some other details here. The plot revolves around, quote, a young married couple struggling to survive against a supernatural entity, end quote. And they write that they say that Abrams reps could not confirm or deny the info. Now, if it's Last Starfighter and Supernatural, I'm not sure what the Last Starfighter comparison is, because the biggest thing that leaps out to me is someone taking a test that they didn't know that they were taking that is for a higher purpose. Yeah.
It's the sword in the stone kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's actually, this might be an example of what Bruce Campbell was saying. Someone doing something they're not prepared for, except for there again, he was an expert at the game, which he was he was prepared.
Yeah. He might have been, he didn't think he was prepared. Yeah. He was wax on, wax off prepared, right? He was given all the skills through an alternate task.
Yeah.
And then he was surprised you're prepared to fight, So.
You're really killing people with these buttons now.
Awesome. I'd always hoped I would do that one day.
Yeah, I'd be curious. I'm trying to think. Abrams did he did the 2 Star Wars films out of the 3 most recent ones. He did the Star Trek films. I'm trying to think of anything else that, and I think that's maybe the order in which he did them. Maybe Super 8 was in between there somehow.
I thought it was before the Star Trek films. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I thought I feel far away. That's maybe before Trek. I don't know. It's been a while.
I guess my experience with him has been 50-50, maybe hit or miss, with me really liking some and others being fine.
But not terrible, right? It's like okay, they're fine. He's a fine filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
So his decisions are questionable, right? That's kind of the thing.
But and that said, I get it, right? I mean, you're dealing with something, an art form that you're trying to, what do they call it? Like have a tentpole movie or was it 4 corners or 4 quadrant film where you're attracting like you got a little bit for everybody. Maybe a 3 quadrant film or 2 quadrant film would be, less challenging, but so you have to rely on tropes a lot, but you're an artist. So you want to subvert them or, I get it. I get the impulse.
You want to put your mark on it, don't you? You want it to be an Abrams film, and we just want it to be a good film. So sometimes maybe those are at odds too much.
And you want to switch it up like, oh, it's going to be this, but no, it's not. But
we'll take the second Star Trek film.
Yeah.
Oh, surprise.
Oh,
it's
God.
Going to be, right?
That was
the fact that the second film, they're like, just remake Wrath of Khan, but it's all backwards. Surprise.
Yeah.
I'm like, really?
And yes. And they subverted the least interesting. I say not the least interesting, the laziest thing, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They just they basically flipped some roles and said, let's do the same movie again with more special effects and lens flare.
Yeah. And then he lied about it. That was really infuriating.
Abrams. Damn you.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we hate him. I can't remember now.
Wasted Cumberbatch.
Right. Forget it. I'm not seeing this movie. All right.
Yes,
hey.
you are. You're totally seeing this movie.
I'll be there opening night. All right. Yeah. That and Toxic Avenger. Okay, hey, that was the show. And now I'll do Cat. And our show was brought to you by...
Could she phone this in for us? No?
Yeah. Oh, she's gone now. She has my phone number. All right, whatever. I don't know. She's doing something more important. All right, hey, yes. Our show every week is brought to you by these fine folks, including our early adopters, which include Rick Parker and Karen... Yep. Oh, I don't have my horns here. Karen Flieger.
I thought you forgot Karen's name. Karen. No. Oh, wait. I got to look it up. You were looking for the button.
Looking for the button, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, a special thanks to our folks who are our secret of our success level Patreon supporters, including John Henderson, Steve McLeod, Marcus Taylor, Tony Great, Matt Marino, Nick Guillory, and the third person on the show today, Brandon Greer.
Well done, third co-host.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you, Marcus, for your research today. Now we know it was Randy Travis. Right?
Well done. So glad.
There you go. Hey, seriously, check. We're so grateful for these guys. Look, what would we be without them? I don't know. We'd still be chalking John and I. I'd be on a phone, and we wouldn't record it, and we wouldn't be able to publish it. So we need your help. Please help us. Please tell a friend about us. That's the best thing. You got no money? Do 2 things. Tell a friend, and then go to patreon.com/1980s now and give us $1.
It's so cheap. It's so cheap.
What are you, a freeloader?
Okay, D. Snyder. Way to guilt him into it.
Yeah, this show is not a piss show. This is not the piss podcast.
Piss episode coming up in 3 weeks.
This might have been the piss episode, John, because Cat's not here.
Oh, maybe this was it. Oh, no. Retroactively. Can we edit the old episodes to lead up to this one?
We just bought ourselves 3 weeks now that this was. All right. Hey, we will. He's setting us up for this a bad segue. So I'll remind you, go to retrocons.com as a way of breaking it up so you can see us in 4 weeks or whenever it is, September 7th and September 8th in Oaks,
See you there.
right near Philly. All right. That said, though, before that, we will speak to you on this show next time on 1980s Now.
I want to suck.